Although the ongoing pandemic remains a hot topic for congressional lawmakers, these days, it seems like more people are talking about the president's recent decision to nominate Judge Amy Coney Barrett to fill the vacancy on the Supreme Court. So, here to discuss that decision and the media's reaction to it is the president and CEO of the largest legal organization in the nation, Kelly Shackelford. So, Kelly, I appreciate you coming on the program tonight. I know that you've been following Judge Barrett's work for a long time and you're very familiar with it. So, I just want to ask you, what do you think of the president's decision to nominate her to the Supreme Court?
It was an excellent decision by the president. I mean, she is incredibly highly qualified, brilliant. She was #1 in her class from law school. Was a law professor at the top levels. Also was obviously a Court of Appeals judge for the last few years. I think the story that kind of, to me, teases it out as much as anybody is why she's a great pick. Is the story of her as a young law student. Her law professor said, you know, it's all blind. You don't know whose exam you're grading. And here she is, and he's reading her law exam, and he realizes, oh my gosh, whoever the student is, their answer is better than my answer, and I'm going to have to change the key. That's exactly the type of person we're looking for on the Supreme Court. And of course, I like her also because I'm committed to religious freedom. That's what our group, First Liberty, does. And she is excellent on religious freedom, and I think will make a great justice on the Supreme Court.
And we've heard what former Justice Antonin Scalia had to say about her as well. I mean, that's a man who has his own reputation on the high court. And I mean, the clerkship that she got, it's one of the most coveted in the entire country. And the fact that she was able to do it, and not only do it, but surpass the expectations of Justice Scalia, I think that speaks volumes within itself. But I do want to talk about the religious liberties thing, because for some on the right, that's the exact reason why they want her on the court, whereas those on the left, a lot of times, are saying that's the exact reason why they don't want her on the court. But when you look at her decisions, for example, she's only been a judge, for example, for a couple of years, but she does have her writings as well as a professor. She seems to just be someone who follows precedent. Do you think that that's the case when it comes to Judge Barrett?
Absolutely. There's no question. I mean, you can look at her decisions that you know that she probably disagrees with the law in that decision. I mean, I think of one of her decisions that she joined, which was about a bubble zone for shutting down really protests around abortion clinics. There was a Supreme Court case that said that that's what the law was. I think most of us know that's a massive violation of free speech, but as a lower court judge, she had to follow the precedent. So even when she doesn't agree personally, it's not about that. It's about her following the law. She said it best. She said Scalia was her mentor, and that's the philosophy she's going to follow, which is an originalist, which means you just look to the original meaning of the text and you follow the law. And what I see her as is a female Justice Scalia. And I think that would be a great addition to our court.
Oh, I mean, a lot of conservatives have even said that that has been long overdue for a long time. I mean, even when Justice Scalia was still on the court, I mean, there were still a lot of conservatives who were talking about the idea of getting a woman on the court in that type of position. And when you look at who she's replacing, too, I mean, it does, I don't know if you would call it irony of some sort or the universe kind of coming full circle, but she is a very strong woman who a lot of people say won't only change her perspective being that one vote on the court, but it could alter the views of maybe some other people as well. I mean, for example, if Justice Roberts is no longer the swing vote, I've heard a lot of people say that perhaps he will come back to the conservative type of outlook that a lot of people thought he initially was, because he no longer has to take that strong position, or perhaps he can write more in his dissents, if you will. Do you think that she'll bring something else to the court rather than just that one conservative vote?
Absolutely. Number one, she's really bringing some very unique things to the court. Number one, everybody on the court right now is either from Harvard or Yale. Yeah. She's middle America, so she's going to be the only person on the court who's a mom. Not only a mom of 7 children, two adopted children, 1 special needs. I think she's going to be more relatable to the country than anybody on the court, and also I think that she brings that philosophy. I think our court has really kind of left its moorings for a number of decades now, where they've become way too political. They've kind of gotten into these hot button issues instead of just being judges. And she brings that whole perspective of our job is not to be a legislature. It's not to do what we think is right. It's to follow the law, to look at the original meaning of the text and the Constitution. And I think as she does that, the whole court's going to move that direction now with her on the court. And I think we're going to move back to the court being the court instead of this highly charged place where everybody wants to have them do their politics for them. That's not how our country should work. You should do your politics with your legislature and locally and the marketplace of ideas where you can throw these people out of office if you don't like their public policy. The court should be the court and be judges, and I think we're going to return more to that with her.
And I think, too, that a lot of people view the courts as perhaps the last sacred part of our governance that isn't affiliated with politics. I mean, I know that there is politics when it gets involved. Otherwise, people, for example, wouldn't be fighting against her confirmation the same way that they wouldn't have fought against Brett Kavanaugh's confirmation. It just wouldn't be much of an issue if there wasn't politics involved at all. But I think you bring up a really good point when it comes to Judge Amy Coney Barrett's personal life. I mean, she is relatable. She's a mother, as you mentioned, and I didn't know that she was going to be the only mother on that bench. When you bring that up, it is kind of wild to think about, because oftentimes these justices are thought of those people in their ivory towers, thinking great thoughts, things of that nature. But I think it's about application at the end of the day. What helps people, what really sticks to the true words of the Constitution. And I know that right now an issue that comes up when we talk about that is the possibility of Roe v. Wade being overturned. We said that on the lower bench. She does stick to precedent, but on the Supreme Court, she'll be someone who could set precedent to some degree as well. So do you think the concerns about Roe v. Wade being overturned are legitimate, or do you think that it's something that's maybe being used politically in order to hinder her confirmation efforts?
Well, I think that people who criticize her, it's a lot of times because clearly as a Catholic, as a conservative, as a religious person, she's said that she's pro-life personally before. She's been outspoken on that. The problem with thinking that that means she's going to rule a certain way on a case, you just don't know her, because what she's going to do is follow the law. And so now she has talked about, there's some people that say that Roe is a super precedent that can never be overruled. She's disagreed with that in her writing. She said, no, there are some sort of super precedents like Brown versus Board of Education. But she said Roe is not that kind of a case. We do respect precedent. But at the same time, we also change things when they're wrong. And so it's kind of an open question. Many people think they know what she'll do, but I think you'd have to look at the case. I think you're going to see her following the law based upon the case that is before her. And I think you're going to find that she's a lot of times like Justice Scalia. Justice Scalia voted the wrong way as far as his wife was concerned on the flag burning case. And he hated it. And he talked about that he hated having to rule that way because he thinks burning the flag is horrible. But he was following the Constitution and what he felt like he was supposed to do. Now, she was going to hum Stars and Stripes around the house all day after he did that and bug the fool out of him, which he did. But he's going to be true and just follow the law. And I think we can know that she's going to do the same.
And I heard someone correct me the other day when I said that there's political implications coming into it when it comes to Roe v. Wade. And they very astutely said that Roe v. Wade isn't a political issue when it comes to Judge Amy Coney Barrett. It's a constitutional issue. And that's how she's going to view that issue. It's not going to be based on her religious beliefs or her political affiliation or anything like that. It's going to be on the merits of how the law is written, or lack thereof, I guess. So, Kelly Shackelford, I mean, it's a fascinating conversation, and I really appreciate you coming on the program tonight and giving us some insight into Judge Amy Coney Barrett. Thank you.
Thank you.